the sentiment and then visualizing this in Power BI, right? So for instance, and it's hard for you to see, so I'm just gonna kind of, let's say some area where these guys are doing well, apparently service is not a problem. Let me put the magnifier again so you can see something. So for instance, I clicked on service, right? And service, it seems like the hotels are doing really great, actually. They have very little negative information, and then, people have, I can actually even filter based on the sentiment, right? So it says great service and accommodations. The staff, room, cleanliness, service were all home runs, right? So, very good stuff that people are saying about service. If I were to look at some of the areas where maybe this is not doing so well, like bathrooms, like it looks like there is a lot of red there, I can click on that. And I can see what I can fix about the bathrooms, right? Bad quality bathrooms. The bathroom was not acceptable. The bathroom had red stains on places, right? So if I am the manager of these hotels, I can quickly pinpoint the problems and then solve my procedures, right? In this case, for instance, it looks like just training my people and telling them to be nice is not the solution, right? I am already doing great in service, but instead there is just a checklist on the thing, like, are there red stains in the bathroom, right? And then clean them, right? Like that will be the change that I will need to make in order to increase my sentiment, right? So that's just one example of how you will apply this. Okay. Let me zoom out. Okay, very good. So let's proceed. So far we have learned a few things. There are a bunch of cognitive services that you can consume. You can sign up for them very quickly, get an API key, and consume them from any connected device. And it's nothing that a developer cannot do, right? It's just an HTTP call away. So easy to consume. You don't need to be a data scientist to consume. So let's go back to presentation code. Let's go through a few of these. I want to just tell you about them. I would like to highlight one thing. For each of these areas, we have some of the services that accept the ability for you to customize it. For instance, we have let's say the computer vision service. You can give it an image and it can tell you what's in the image. We could try it right now. But we also have the ability for you to, let's go back here. Let's say we want to look at the computer vision service, just because we haven't talked about that one. Okay, so I can give it any image, right? And then it is able to tell me what's going on inside that image. So for instance, for this image of this guy here, it types it automatically. It says water, swimming, sport, pool, person, blah, blah, blah. And then it can even tell me, in there it says, a man swimming in a pool of water. And the confidence of that is 89%. And the system is just able to learn that based on the tags and compose a sentence or a caption for this image automatically, right? Now, what happens sometimes is that this may not be sufficient for some people. They may say, okay, yeah, great, you know how to tell if a guy is swimming in water, but what I really want to do is I want to be able to classify these two types of, I don't know, bolts or whatever, or screws or whatever, right? Or these parts of a clock that I have, and this is part number 532, and this is part 211, and I want you to be able to tell the difference between these two, right? So then we also have a custom vision service where you can provide the system images to train it so that it works just for you. So that's the customization that I'm referring to. So we also have for speech.
How many images?
That's a very good question. So it depends. So if you have a few classes, right? Let's say you only have 2 classes, and the objects are very different. Yeah, maybe 10 images will be sufficient, right? But if you have, let's say, 100 classes, and the objects are almost the same, right? Then let's say that something has like 5 nodes, and the other one has 3 nodes, right? Then you may want to provide more and more images. So it really depends. You have to try it in your particular scenario. And consider, right, like an image taken from different angles may look completely different. So you may want to have like as rich of a base of images so that your system can learn. As rich as possible, right? So you have to try it, I guess. For speech, speech is interesting, right? I can do speech to text, text to speech, but it's sometimes hard to get things right. Like you get somebody like me with a thick Spanish accent, and it may not work so well, right? So wouldn't it be nice if I could create a custom system that would recognize Spanish accented people like me and work well. One example of a consumption of a custom speech service is McDonald's. So when you speak through the audio system, through the driveway system, it's like, what would you like to eat today, sir? Right? And I'm like, I would like a McDonald's, a Big Mac and fries and whatever. And the system, the audio quality is very poor, and then there are like people honking in the back or cars going on the street and so forth. However, if you think of the language, the richness of the language that goes through a drive-through, right, is like this big, right? Like people talk about Big Mac sundaes and fries, and they never talk about dead cats, right? So it's a very small subset of the language, and that's to my advantage, right? Because then I can train it on this type of language, right? This universe, and it can create a high precision model for me specifically for this system, right? So, and that's a real example. McDonald's is using it in drive-thrus today, so that it automatically generates the items that you want to eat, right? Not that you want to eat them, but just in case with McDonald's. Okay, so then we have language understanding capabilities. Let me hold that one for later because I think that one is interesting enough that we should actually go through a demo. For knowledge, we have things like recommendation systems. We have a custom decision service. Just to give you an idea of the type of things that you can do with the custom decision service, the MSN page, the one with the news, on MSN.com, it always shows like the highlights or the most popular items, right? The tough thing is if you own a web page like that, bringing up always like the most popular content, it's a pretty tough challenge because you don't know it's popular until you put it out there. And then not only that, but it changes over time, right? Like what is popular right now may not be what is hot in the next 5 minutes. So the custom decision service is pretty interesting. What it allows you to do is to say, okay, system, these are like my potential highlights, right? Like let's say I pass it like 30 potential articles that may be interesting, right? Instead of having a human select which one goes to the front page, I say, okay, here they are, and the system starts experimenting with people, and it realizes which one is more popular, and then as time goes by, it realizes that perhaps the popularity is decreasing, but by then it has also experimented with other articles, so it always shows to the majority of the people the most interesting articles, right? So this is just one example of a cognitive service in the knowledge space that can be customized. And then we have a lot of search stuff. I'm not going to go through them because I think search is pretty clear. You use search all the time. So it's the Bing search service and how you can find custom entities, for instance, and custom search. Labs also I will not cover. These are like areas where we are kind of playing, trying things out, seeing if people like them before we make them a proper cognitive service. Okay, so let's proceed. I'm actually going to show you this video, I think, before we talk about language understanding. So I think I put it here already, ready to roll.
Think about this. How often are you alive when the dawn of a new medium comes out? I knew that I had to be a part of VR because there are no rules for what VR should be. Starship Commander is a choose-your-own-adventure VR narrative that uses natural language processing, so you can actually have a real conversation with the characters.
I'm Sergeant Sarah Pearson. I've been assigned to your wing today.
When we started making Starship Commander, we had to figure out how do we get technology that can understand what a person's saying so that we can have these new narrative experiences. We're a science fiction game. We come up with new words. No off-the-shelf software could let us put in custom words.
Who are the Ecnians?
In our story, the bad guys are called the Ecnians. And every time we said Ecnian, it would come up with really weird words that were similar to other things that you would say. And so it would get confused all the time. So we needed to make sure that we could supply our own script. We started using Microsoft Cognitive Services to power the back end of Starship Commander.
Well, that's cool.
Once we plugged custom speech service into Starship Commander, I had tears in my eyes when I was playing it because it's like, oh my god, this is it. This is the experience we want.
Open the hatch.
Voice print accepted. Welcome, Commander.
You can essentially put your script in there and it knows, oh, these are the ways that people are going to talk. And these are the phrases that they're going to say.
Cool. What's my mission?
Must be something pretty important.
And then the second thing too was the intent detection. With Lewis, you basically give it a couple statements. After you give it a couple statements, you crunch it and you start typing in your own statements, and it's shockingly scary how good it picks up, even stuff that you didn't put in there.
Computer, use autopilot and let's be on our way.
Autopilot engaging.
I have never seen an opportunity like this, where there's a wide open playing field, no one's written the rules yet. There's going to be tons of amazing software out there, and I just can't wait to see what other people write.
All right, let's set with the Microsoft logo before the next video kicks in. All right, so I love that because there are two pieces that are happening, right? So they are using the speech API to go from speech to text to talk to the machine, but then something else has to happen, right? When somebody says, open the hatch, right? How is the system supposed to know what to do, right? Especially because a person is not supposed to memorize 20 or 30 expressions to talk to the machine, right? Ideally, the system, you should be able to say, open the thing, I don't know what you call it, like the thing that is in the front or whatever, right? And it should know what it is. It should understand how to categorize language to do. If I were to say let's just go faster, or if I were to say increase my speed, right? The system should realize that those two expressions refer to the same intent, right? And that's where the language understanding intelligence systems, LUIS for short, I did not name it, that's when it comes in, right? And it's super powerful because it can generalize language. It can go from, once we have speech and text, right? From text to intent. So I'm gonna introduce you to a little bit about bots and here, where were we? Here. Actually, let's keep all this stuff. We already talked about text analytics. Yeah. Let's skip these slides. Let's actually go into them. So I decided to create a small bot. I call it UFBot, my out-of-office assistant. So the idea is I travel a lot and I am a program manager, so I don't get anything done. So I figured a bot should be able to do like the majority of my work, right? So a lot of people ask like they ping me and they say, oh, I heard you give a presentation. Can you tell me more about the text analytics API? Or they may say, can you point me to an expert on recommendation systems or whatever? And half of my job is just rerouting. I'll talk to Yo, talk to Bob, talk to Dylan, or whatever, right? Or people ask questions like, oh, I really would like to know how to do sentiment analysis. And I'm like, okay, they haven't read the documentation again. And there I go, and I give them the link to the documentation, right? It's amazing how much of that I actually do. So then I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice if when I'm away from the office, when it's very hard for me to get back to my customers, whether they are internal or external, if they could actually reach out to my bot, and my bot could help them solve these problems, right? Or perhaps setting up a meeting with me, right? Like setting up a meeting should be trivial, right? Like I just need to ask them when they want to meet, and they should look at my calendar, find the time that is common, and it should just work, right? So I created the out of office bot. So the out of office bot, it's a hackathon project, so it's really two and a half days of investment. So don't judge me if you don't like it. But the interesting thing is I can ask questions. You know, like I can say, well, okay. So first of all, let me wake it up. It's in a virtual machine that wakes up whenever I start using it, as to not consume power. So it will wake up in a few seconds. But let's ask it a question. Any takers?
Where is Luis now?
Very good question. Now, I did not actually, let's ask it the question, you're right. But it probably will lie as to where I am, based on what I configured it to say last time. But that's okay, let's do it. Where is Luis now? Where is Luis now? Very good question. And I think he's going to say that I'm traveling or something, yeah. Luis is in Europe visiting customers, and this is the last time I was in Europe, and I was going to come back on the 8th of May, right? Okay. That is correct. So now I could ask it, where can I learn about, let's say, text analytics, which is what we were doing just a second ago. And it says, oh, I can provide some documentation that may help you learn about text analytics. You should look at this. And if I click on that, it will take me to the actual page where we were on just a second ago. You see? I mean, it's zoomed out, but that's okay. So okay, and then it asks me, so it can actually go back and ask questions back. And says, is the documentation link I provided helpful to you? And yes, it's helpful, but I'm going to say no, just to see what it does. And then it goes and says, okay, if you didn't like the documentation for some reason, then I will find the expert on the topic, which happens to be Nagy, right, who is a developer in the text analytics team, right? And then it can route a person to talk to Nagy while I'm away from the office, right? Oh, very nice. So now I could ask the same question in a different manner, just to show that there can be many ways to ask the same question. Instead of asking what did I say? Where can I learn about text analytics? I could ask, where is the documentation? And I'll do something else for recommendations. Right? It's the same intent, but just different topic. And it, once again, it realizes that I am asking for documentation or papers or research on a particular topic. It identifies the topic, recommendations, and it gives me the right documentation. Right? Very nice. And I'm going to say yes, it's helpful. Okay, fine. Before we go and I tell you what's happening under the hood, I'll tell you that my UFBot actually also realizes how frustrated somebody is with it. So I can actually, I'm going to take the average sentiment down by insulting it. So I'm going to say you suck. And hopefully we'll realize that that's very bad. And then it responds. The idea is that no one should ever not get an answer, right? So if they're so frustrated, fine, call my cell phone. Here is my cell phone and interrupt my vacation or my travel trip. Okay. So in a real scenario, right, this will actually go to a customer support representative, right? And it should escalate like that, right? But this is just my toy bot, so it just gives people my cell phone. Okay, very good. Let's talk about what's happening under the hood. And I'm going to zoom out here, just hopefully. Let me see if I can make this just bigger. Okay, can you see more or less? Okay. So I'm going to show you what's happening under the hood. So under the hood, what I had to do is define a set of intents, right? So my bot can do like 10 things, right? Because it's a small bot. But if it were a bigger bot, right, it could do more than 10 things. However, I decided that it will do things like documentation requests, which is what we were doing just a second ago, finding a contact, getting the real Luis, where is the real Luis, my out-of-office information, schedule me for an appointment, right? They can do a variety of things, right? So now, the next step is to define how will somebody express this, and instead of me being an expert in language and say, look, if the keyword document is there, or if expert is there, or if they say where, or whatever, right? What I did is I taught it just like a child. I taught it by example. So let's say for the documentation request. Find me, so I started typing examples, right? Where is the information on a particular topic? And then at the beginning, it gave me the probability that it will understand the correct classification for that, and it was very low. It was like 20% probability that was the correct class that I told it about, right? But I just kept giving it examples, and the probability kept increasing. After a while, the probability was in the 90s, right? And I was like, okay, this is good enough, right? So I probably spent like an hour just giving it examples of how people may ask different things. And with that, it is able to generalize language, right?
When you say giving the examples, you mean in the bot, in the Microsoft Teams? Where were you giving those examples?
Yeah, so I came to this UI, and I can do it programmatically as well, but it's very easy to use the UI. It's Luis.ai. And as I created a new model here, I said, okay, so these are my 10 intents, and for each of them, I can actually type a new utterance right here. I could say, where is Luis, or whatever, right? And then then as I present it will analyze what that means, and then it will tell me the probability that is this class, in this case, a documentation request. Yeah, and once I have that, I have a